Have you ever been, sitting in the doctor's office sharing really personal stuff? Your health worries, billing details,
And
everything.
you just trust them.
Right, exactly. You just trust that it's all safe, totally private.
Yeah.
Well, that feeling, that trust, it's not just there, it's actually built on something. There's this pretty powerful federal law working behind the scenes.
It's interesting, isn't it, that trust isn't just faith, it's actually structured,
Yeah.
built on a legal framework designed for super sensitive info.
Totally. And today, in the deep dive, we're digging into that exact framework. ATPA, heard of it? It's the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
A mouthful, but crucial.
Right. Our mission today is basically to break this down, get the key bits so you understand what it does, how far it reaches, and yeah, how it affects your medical info and the whole healthcare system. Prepare for some aha moments about your own data. But before we really get into the weeds, just a quick reminder, this deep dive draws from material provided by Farhat Lectures.
Yes.
All the content, the examples, explanations, it's all derived from the comprehensive accounting resources over at farhatlectures.com.
Great stuff over there.
Definitely. So whether you're an accounting student studying for the CPA exam or already a professional, you should check out the website. They've got extra practice questions, video lectures, detailed support. It's all there to help reinforce today's topic.
And a big thanks to Professor Farhat for making this valuable material available to us.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's unpack IPA. You hear the acronym, but what's the full picture? Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act, established back in '96, federal law. What was the big idea behind it? What need did it fill?
Well, the main goal really was to set up solid data privacy and security rules specifically for medical information. I mean, think about it. Every time you interact with a healthcare system,
Doctor, hospital, pharmacy.
exactly, your incredibly personal health data is being created. It's being shared, stored
Yeah.
by loads of different people and places. Before IPEA, the protection for that data was, well, kind of all over the place. Often not enough.
Ah, okay. So it wasn't consistent.
Not at all. IPEA stepped in to create a unified, strong shield for that information.
So it's bigger than just what you tell your doctor. It's about the whole system handling that data safely. What are some of the main pillars iPay set up to actually make that happen?
Okay, so first off, and maybe most obviously, is the privacy of health information. IPEA lays down very clear rules. Legally binding rules for healthcare providers, we call them covered entities, and for health plans.
Okay.
It spells out exactly who can look at and receive your sensitive health info. And importantly, these aren't just guidelines. They give you specific rights over your own information. Confidentiality and security are top priority.
Having rights over your own data, that feels pretty important.
Yeah.
But privacy isn't just about who sees it, right? It's also got to be about keeping it safe from mistakes or, hackers.
Precisely. And that leads right into the security standards. IPEA created national standards. The same rules apply in every state for protecting individual records.
National standards. Okay.
Yeah. And this isn't just for electronic stuff. It covers all your health info, digital, paper chart, whatever. From the moment it's made, used, stored by one of these covered entities.
So like physical files, too.
Yep. The standards cover things like who gets access, how data is stored, and critically, how it must be protected from anyone who shouldn't see it or use it.
Makes sense. Now, beyond privacy and security, you mentioned something about efficiency. How does a privacy law help make the healthcare system run smoother? That seems kind of different.
It does seem different, but it's a key part. That's where standardized transactions come in. IPEA actually required standard formats for electronic transactions. Imagine the mess if every hospital used different codes for billing or different ways to file claims.
Yeah, chaos.
Total chaos.
Yeah.
So IPEA standardized things. Codes for diagnoses, for procedures like there's a specific code for, say, an overnight hospital stay, another for an appendix removal. It sounds a bit dry, maybe.
A little bit, yeah.
Huh? Yeah. But it made a massive difference. Claims processing got faster, more accurate. It cut down on administrative headaches and costs across the entire system. Really streamlined things.
Okay, that efficiency piece is interesting. And then there's the P in HIPAA, portability. This is one people might not connect to the law, but you said it was a game changer. It's not just privacy or billing.
No, not at all.
No.
And this portability part is huge and often overlooked. Before HIPAA, think about changing jobs. Or worse, losing one.
Right. Stressful enough.
And on top of that, you could suddenly lose your health insurance.
Yeah.
Just like that. A gap in coverage. Especially scary if you had a pre-existing condition.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's terrifying.
HIPAA fundamentally changed that. It ensured you can carry your health insurance from one job to the next without that gap. It basically gave people security during job transitions. Huge deal.
That's a massive safety net. Knowing your health coverage isn't tied quite so tightly to your specific job at that moment. Okay, so we have privacy, security, standard codes, portability, but any law needs teeth, right? How does HIPAA make sure everyone follows the rules?
Good question. It includes strong enforcement and breach notification rules.
Hmm.
There are clear civil money penalties for violations, and there are set procedures for investigations and hearings run by the Department of Health and Human Services.
So there are real consequences.
Definitely.
Hmm.
And crucially, there's the breach notification rule. If your protected health information gets out without your permission, that's a breach. The covered entity has to tell you, you have a right to know if your data has been compromised.
So putting it all together, HIPAA wasn't just about data privacy and isolation. It sounds like it was foundational, building trust, bringing healthcare into the digital age, but responsibly.
That's spot on. The big picture goal is fostering confidentiality and security, yes, but also improving efficiency through standardization, making sure patient rights are respected, all while trying to maintain or even improve the quality of care.
Okay, that gives us a really solid handle on the what's and why of HOPA. Now let's zoom in a bit. Who are the actual players? You mentioned PHI, Protected Health Information. What exactly falls under that umbrella?
Right, PHI. It's basically any information about your health status, the care you got, or payment for that care that's created or collected by a covered entity, or what's called a business associate. The absolute key part, it has to be linkable to you, identifiable.
So if it points back to a specific person, it's PHI.
That's the test.
And it's not just like your diagnosis and your chart. It's broader than that.
Oh, much broader. It's interpreted really widely. Of course, it includes the obvious stuff, your name, social security number, medical record number,
Yeah.
but also things like your date of birth, address, phone number, email, even your IP address or web URLs if they're linked to health info. Biometric data too, fingerprints, voice prints, full face photos, basically any unique identifier.
Wow. Okay. So pretty much anything that could tie a piece of health data back to you personally.
Exactly. The broad scope is intentional to create a really comprehensive shield around your data in today's world.
Makes sense. So that's what the PHI. Now, who are these covered entities you keep mentioning? The organization's actually bound by HIPAA.
Okay, covered entities are the groups that must comply with HIPAA simply because handling PHI is part of their normal operations. There are three main types. First, healthcare providers.
Right. The obvious ones.
Yeah, your doctors, clinics, dentists, chiropractors, nursing homes, pharmacies, anyone providing healthcare directly. They're on the front lines.
Got it. Category 1. What's number 2?
Second category is health plans. Think HMOs, health insurance companies generally, also government programs that pay for care, Medicare, Medicaid, even military and veterans health programs. They handle tons of PHI for billing, coverage decisions, so they're definitely covered.
Okay. Providers and plans. And the third type, you mentioned healthcare clearinghouses. Sounds a bit more back office.
It is a bit more specialized. Healthcare clearinghouses are entities that take non-standard health information, maybe from a provider's unique system, and translate it into those standard codes we talked about earlier, often for billing.
Ah, the translators.
Kind of, yeah. So this could be specialized billing services. It could even be certain tech companies or cloud service providers if they're processing or facilitating this kind of data exchange and have access to the PHI while doing it. If they handle it, they're covered.
So providers, plans, clearinghouses, those are the main covered entities. But healthcare is complex. What about all the other companies that help them out, like the IT support or the company that shreds their old documents or the cloud service storing the records? Are they just off the hook?
Ah, great question. No, definitely not off the hook. That's where business associates come in. A business associate is any person or company that performs functions or activities for a covered entity or provides services to them where that work involves using or disclosing PHI.
So they aren't providing care directly, but they touch the data because of the work they do for the provider or plan.
Exactly. They're working on behalf of the covered entity.
Can you give some examples? Who would be a typical business associate?
Sure. Think about data analysts, maybe looking at health trends for a hospital. Billing companies, obviously. IT vendors managing the network systems. Call centers handling patient questions for an insurance plan. Cloud providers storing the electronic health records. It can also include legal services working on a healthcare case, labs processing samples, even court reporters transcribing testimony that includes PHI.
Wow, that's a wide net.
It is.
Huh.
And here's the crucial point. Even though they aren't covered entities themselves, these business associates are directly required to comply with most of HIPAA's rules.
Sure.
And they could face penalties directly if they mess up. Their role is critical, so their responsibility is clear too.
Okay, so the protection follows the data, essentially, no matter who is handling it for a permitted reason. Which brings up another question. Can your PHI ever be shared without you signing a specific form for that instance? Are there times it's allowed automatically?
Yes, there are specific situations where disclosure is permitted under the HIPAA privacy rule, even without getting your explicit, separate authorization for that specific instance.
Like what?
Well, first and foremost, disclosure to you, the individual. It's your information. You have a right to access it.
Makes sense.
Also, disclosure is permitted for TPO. That's treatment, payment, and healthcare operations. These are really the core functions needed for the healthcare system to work. Your doctors need to share info to treat you. The hospital needs to share info to get paid. The insurer needs info for its operations.
Okay, TPO. That seems fundamental. What else?
There's an allowance for incidental disclosures. This is when information is shared unintentionally as a side effect of an otherwise permitted activity if reasonable safeguards are in place. Think like someone overhearing a name being called in a waiting room.
Okay. Unavoidable sometimes, if minimized.
Right. And of course, disclosure's fine if you do give valid written authorization for a specific purpose. Also, if you're given a clear chance to agree or object to a disclosure, maybe sharing info with a family member involved in your care, and you agree or don't object, it can proceed.
Any others?
Yes. A limited data set where most identifiers are removed can be used for research, public health work, or certain healthcare operations. And finally, PHI can be disclosed when required by law, or for specific public interest activities, like reporting infectious diseases to public health authorities. So there are exceptions, but they're carefully defined.
Okay. That helps clarify when sharing might happen. So we know the what, the why, the who. Let's get practical. How does IP actually protect the data day to day? What are the tangible defenses? This is where the safeguards come in, I assume.
Exactly. IP requires three types of safeguards: administrative, physical, and technical. Let's start with administrative safeguards. These are basically the policies, procedures, the written rules an organization puts in place to manage security risks and guide their workforce.
So the organizational stuff, the internal playbook, kind of.
Precisely. It includes things like conducting a formal risk analysis and management process. That means actively looking for potential risks and vulnerabilities to the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of PHI, and then having plans to address those risks.
So you have to actually look for weak spots.
You have to. It also mandates information access management. This means policies for who gets access to PHI and ensuring it's based on their role, only giving access to what's needed for their specific job, often called role-based access or minimum necessary.
The need-to-know principle again makes sense. What else falls under administrative?
Workforce training is huge. Regular, required training for all employees on privacy and security policies, why HIPAA is important. There also have to be clear sanction policies. What happens if someone violates the rules?
So consequences internally, too.
Absolutely. Plus, organizations need to do periodic evaluations to see if their security policies are actually working effectively. And they must have a contingency plan policies for how to respond to emergencies, system failures, data loss, think data backups, disaster recovery.
Okay, that covers the policies and procedures. Now, physical safeguards. That sounds more like locks and keys, tangible security.
You got it. These are controls focused on limiting physical access. So facility access control is a big one, literally controlling who can physically get into areas where electronic systems or paper records are stored. Locks, security guards, access badges, that kind of thing.
Right. Securing the actual space.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it also covers workstation and device security. This means policies about how workstations, computers, laptops, tablets are used. Things like positioning screens so passersby can't easily see them. Also, crucial rules about handling electronic media, how you transfer, remove, dispose of, or reuse things like hard drives or backup tapes securely.
So like making sure computers lock automatically, wiping hard drives before getting rid of them.
Yes, exactly. Those kinds of practical steps fall under physical safeguards for devices and media.
Okay. Administrative, physical. That leaves technical safeguards. This must be where the IT stuff comes in, protecting the electronic data itself.
Correct. Technical safeguards are the technology and related policies used to protect electronic PHI, ePHI, and control access to it. This includes access control using technical tools like unique user IDs, passwords, maybe two-factor authentication, to ensure only authorized people can log into systems containing EPHI,
The digital locks and keys.
pretty much. Then there's audit controls. These are mechanisms, hardware, software, or procedures that record and examine activity in information systems. Who accessed what data, when, what changes were made. It creates an electronic trail.
An audit trail, so you can see who's been in the records.
Exactly. Very important for accountability. We also have integrity controls. These are policies and procedures, including electronic checks, to protect EPHI from being improperly altered or destroyed, ensuring the data is accurate and hasn't been tampered with.
Maintaining data integrity. Got it.
And finally, transmission security. This involves technical security measures to protect EPHI when it's being transmitted over a network, like email or across the internet. The most common tool here is encryption, making the data unreadable if it's intercepted.
Encryption. Okay. That's a lot of layers. Administrative, physical, technical. And they have to keep records of all this, right? The policies, the risk assessments.
Absolutely. Documentation retention is a specific requirement. Organizations must maintain their written HIPAA policies and procedures for at least 6 years from the date they were created, or last in effect, whichever is later. And sometimes other laws require even longer retention.
6 years minimum.
Yes. And it's not just file it and forget it. They have to review and update this documentation regularly, especially if there are environmental or operational changes that affect security. It has to be a living, ongoing process.
So IPA set the stage, but technology keeps marching on. Healthcare went even more digital, right? Which led to an update, the HIPAA Act.
That's right. HITech, the Health Information Technology for Economic and Clinical Health Act, came along in 2009. A big part of its purpose was actually to encourage healthcare providers to adopt electronic health records, EHRs.
Encourage.
Well, the idea was that EHRs would make sharing information easier, faster, cheaper, ultimately leading to better, more coordinated care. Think about your doctor being able to easily pull up records from a specialist you saw.
Yeah, that's definitely happened to me. It's really helpful.
Exactly. So HIPAA offered significant financial incentives to providers for achieving meaningful use of EHRs, basically, using them effectively to improve care. It was a major push to modernize the system.
So it wasn't just about privacy. It was actively promoting digital records. But did it also boost the privacy and security side of things, strengthen HIPAA?
It absolutely did. While promoting EHRs, HIPAA also significantly beefed up HIPAA's protections and, importantly, its enforcement. It increased the legal liability for noncompliance quite a bit.
How so? What changed?
Well, for one thing, the breach notification rule got tougher. Under HITECH, if there's a breach affecting 500 or more people, the covered entity has to notify not just the individuals, but also the Department of Health and Human Services Office for Civil Rights one. The OCR pretty much right away, and they usually have to notify the media too.
Wow, okay. More public accountability.
Definitely. And even for smaller breaches, affecting fewer than 500, they still have to report those to OCR annually.
And the penalties, you mentioned increased liability.
Yes, HIPAA introduced significantly higher penalties for HIPAA violations. They're tiered based on the level of culpability, ranging from situations where the entity didn't know and couldn't reasonably have known, up to willful neglect. The maximum penalty per identical violation in a calendar year jumped up to $1.5 million.
$1.5 million. Okay, that definitely gets attention.
It certainly does. So HITech really pushed things forward, encouraging electronic records while simultaneously making the consequences for failing to protect that data much more severe. It fostered this environment of needing secure electronic data sharing.
Okay, so we've got the law, the safeguards, the HIPAA enhancements. Let's make this real. What are some common ways organizations actually violate HIPAA? Seeing the mistakes helps understand the rules, I think.
That's a great point. Let's run through some common violations. One of the most basic, and sadly frequent, is sharing PHI with unauthorized parties, or just generally making an unauthorized disclosure.
Like gossiping about a patient. Or maybe emailing records to the wrong person.
Exactly. Or even just discussing patient details too loudly in a public area. Another big one is systemic. Failure to perform a thorough risk assessment, or failure to manage the risks you do identify. If you don't know where your vulnerabilities are, you can't protect against them.
So not even doing the homework required by the administrative safeguards.
Right. Along the same lines, failure to train employees properly is a common root cause of violations. If the staff doesn't know the rules or why they matter, mistakes are bound to happen.
Makes sense. What about handling the records themselves?
Mishandling of records, both paper and electronic, is definitely up there. Leaving charts out, not securing laptops, using unencrypted email for sensitive info. And related to that, security incidents due to unsecured networks getting hacked because basic security wasn't in place. That's a huge one.
We talked about breach notification. Failing to do that must be a violation too.
Yes, failure to provide timely and proper notification after a breach is a violation in itself, on top of the breach. Another subtle but common one is over-disclosing information, giving out more PHI than is actually necessary for a particular purpose.
The minimum necessary idea again.
Exactly. Then there are simple but serious errors, like releasing the wrong patient's information, mixing up files, or identities.
Ouch. And what about social media? That seems like a minefield.
It absolutely is. Posting anything about patients on social media, even if you think it's anonymous or harmless or just gossiping online or offline, is a major violation, especially if it involves someone recognizable.
Even if you don't use their name.
Even then, if enough details make them identifiable. And then there's the physical loss. Lost or stolen laptops, smartphones, USB drives that contain unencrypted PHI. Happens all the time. And finally, improper disposal. Just tossing paper records in the trash instead of shredding, or not properly wiping hard drives before disposal.
That list really drives home how many ways things can go wrong and why all those safeguards are so important. Okay, time for a quick knowledge check for everyone listening. Let's see if you caught this detail. We talked about the P in HIPAA. What does that P stand for? Is it protection, portability, provision, or premium?
It's a good test because honestly, iPay involves aspects of all those words in some way.
It really does. Protection is obviously a huge part of it. Premium relates to the insurance aspect. Provision could arguably fit, but the P in the official name, iPay, actually stands for portability.
That's the one.
It specifically refers to that crucial ability to carry your health insurance coverage with you when you change or lose jobs, ensuring continuity of care, a really vital piece of the puzzle.
And it highlights how iPay tackled multiple big issues at once: privacy, security, efficiency, and that critical portability for individuals.
Exactly. And that really brings our deep dive on HIPAA to a close. We've covered how this vital law protects your privacy, helps streamline healthcare, and holds organizations accountable. It's complex, for sure, but it's the bedrock of trust in how our health information is handled.
Absolutely. And thinking about HIPAA now, it was so forward-thinking for 1996. But it makes you wonder, doesn't it? With today's technology, wearables tracking your heart rate 204/7, health apps monitoring everything, how do the principles of HIPAA apply there? Or how might they need to adapt? What does this explosion of personal health data, often outside the traditional doctor's office, mean for your privacy in the future?
That is a fantastic thought to ponder. The landscape is definitely shifting, and the rules will likely need to evolve too, something for all of us to think about. If you want to explore HIPAA further or delve into other accounting and CPA topics, don't forget to visit farhatlectures.com. They have tons of resources, practice questions, videos.
Always more to learn.
Always more to learn, so keep exploring. Thanks for joining us on the